Welcome back to the deep dive. We're shifting gears a little bit today.
Yeah, we really are.
Usually, we're unpacking these successful business models or looking at the latest in biotech or AI. But today we are heading into the wild, untamed territories of the internet.
The very loud ecosystem of the internet.
Exactly. We are exploring a very specific, very loud ecosystem. If you have ever scrolled through the forums of World of Warcraft or really like any major MMO or competitive game, you know exactly who we're talking about today.
Right, it's a character study, really. We are not talking about the actual developers.
No, definitely not.
And we are not talking about the average player who just, logs in to have a good time. We're analyzing the rise of what our sources call the visionary game director.
Right. And just to frame this for everyone listening right out of the gate, this is not a job title at Blizzard Entertainment.
No corner office here.
Right. This isn't someone with a pension plan and a team. This is a persona. It's a persona adopted by someone in a comment section at like 2 in the morning. Someone who has likely never written a single line of code in their life.
But they possess this absolute, unshakable certainty that they and they alone can completely save the MMO genre.
It's wild. So our mission today is to unpack the psychology, the logical fallacies, and honestly, the sheer comedic ego of these armchair developers.
Yeah.
We've got a huge stack of community observations and forum archetypes to go through.
It is such a fascinating psychological profile because it sits right at this intersection of extreme passion and the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the central tension really comes down to two totally different types of expertise colliding in a very messy way.
Right. It's a battle between user expertise and creator expertise.
That is exactly it. That's a great way to put it. On one side, you have the player. They might have 15 years logged in Azeroth.
Which is a massive amount of data.
It is. They know how the game feels. They have
Yeah.
this really deep emotional ownership over the digital world. They know that in 2008, the game felt a certain way, and today it feels different. And that is incredibly valid data.
Sure. Yeah. It's like if you eat at the same Italian restaurant every Tuesday for a decade, you know when the marinara sauce has changed.
Right.
You are an expert on eating the sauce.
You are.
Yeah.
But the disconnect happens when that customer marches into the kitchen, pushes the head chef aside, and starts screaming that they're using the wrong kind of ladle.
Or that the physics of boiling water are just wrong.
Exactly. Or that they could cook 5,000 gallons of sauce in an hour if the kitchen just tried harder. The visionary confuses consuming a product with understanding the very complex logistics of manufacturing it.
Right. They don't see the reality.
No, they don't. We are talking about production pipelines, art assets, engineering constraints, QA bottlenecks, all the boring, gritty reality of actually shipping software.
And that is where the tragedy and the comedy really starts to kick in. Because the visionary doesn't just offer feedback like, hey, this soup is cold. They offer a complete and usually impossible redesign of the entire restaurant.
Oh yeah, a total overhaul.
So let's actually unpack this visionary starter pack from our source material. The first item on our list is something I see constantly, and it absolutely drives me nuts. It's the no changes innovation paradox.
Yes. This is probably the most common logical loop you will find in these gaming communities. The source material describes it as a demand for a fresh new experience that creates a sense of wonder,
But with a catch.
with the very strict caveat that nothing should ever change.
It's the new cake analogy. The source puts it so perfectly. It's like a player saying, I want a new cake. I want it fresh out of the oven. But I want it to taste exactly like the cake I ate in 2005.
Right.
Do not use new ingredients. Do not change the recipe, but make it new.
It sounds totally absurd when you say it out loud like that. But think about the psychology behind it. The player isn't actually asking for the game design of 2005. They are asking for the dopamine hit of 2005.
Oh, that's a really good distinction.
Right. They are asking for the feeling of being 15 years old, having zero adult responsibilities, and seeing a massive digital world for the very first time.
They want that feeling of discovery, but the problem is you can't discover the same thing twice.
Exactly. They are basically chasing the ghost of novelty, so they demand new raids. But if the mechanics in those new raids are too modern or complex, they reject it completely because it doesn't feel like the classic experience.
Yeah, or they scream fix the classes.
Yes, but don't touch my spec.
Right, if you change their specific character's rotation, they revolt because it ruins their muscle memory.
They want the result of innovation, which is excitement, without the actual cost of innovation, which is adaptation.
Which is a design impossibility. You cannot patch youth into the server code. You can't just code a feeling of nostalgia into a new 3D asset.
You really can't.
Yeah.
And this leads the visionary straight into a trap. They genuinely believe the game feels stale because the developers are wrong or incompetent, not because the player has simply exhausted the novelty of the genre after a decade.
Which feeds directly into the next pillar of their belief system. This brings us to the magical math.
The one raid theory.
I love the math here. It is so elegantly simple. The formula mentioned in the sources is literally one new raid equals 10 plus years of sustained popularity.
It is such a fascinating reduction of how an MMO economy actually works. The visionary looks at a dip in subscriber numbers and thinks people are leaving because there is no content. Therefore, the logic follows: if you add one mega raid, everyone comes back and they stay forever.
It's the field of dreams fallacy. Build it and they will come.
Right.
But the reality of MMO consumption is, well, it's violent, it's voracious.
It's brutal, honestly. The source uses the term wood chipper, which I think is such a brilliantly evocative image.
Yeah, chewing through the content.
Exactly. Think about the reality of development. An art team might spend 6 months modeling a single dungeon.
Yeah.
We are talking high-res textures, complex lighting rigging, 3D models, designing boss mechanics, voice acting, sound engineering. It is literally thousands of hours of intense, skilled labor.
And the players.
The players will optimize the fun out of it and consume that entire 6 months of content in 48 hours.
And then go straight to the forums to complain that there is nothing to do on Thursday.
Right. The visionary operates on this idea that content is a permanent fix.
Yeah.
But in a live service, game content is just fuel. It burns up immediately. The source compares it to a restaurant saying, "We released a new dish so people will eat here forever now."
It totally ignores the actual systems of the game. You need retention loops. Economy, tuning, seasonal incentives, social loops. A raid is just a destination. It is not the journey. But if you try to point this out to the visionary that content burns fast, they don't blame the consumption rate. They don't reflect on that.
No, they pivot.
They pivot to the hardware defense, which is one of the funniest parts of this whole profile for me.
The better monitor argument.
Yes. When the game doesn't look right, or it runs poorly, or it just doesn't vibe with them, the visionary shifts into this pseudo-tech-savvy mode. The argument becomes, well, the game looks fine. If you think the graphics are bad, you just need a better monitor.
Or faster GPU. It's a classic deflection mechanism. It shifts the entire burden of performance from the software developers to the user's personal wallet.
Right.
It implies that the game code is absolutely perfect, but your gaming rig just isn't worthy of experiencing it.
It really reminds me of those audiophiles who buy a $5,000 stereo system and claim they can hear the acoustic difference in the expensive gold-plated cables.
It is very similar. The visionary will drop all these technical buzzwords,
Yeah.
HDR refresh rates, 4K textures, ray tracing, just to sound like an industry expert.
Yeah.
But they are completely missing the fundamental point of game engineering, which is optimization.
Exactly. A well-designed game should look good and run smoothly on average hardware.
Right, if you need a $2,000 monitor just to appreciate the basic art style, the art director failed. But the visionary cannot admit the game has architectural flaws because in their mind, the game is the platform for their own greatness.
Which perfectly transitions us to the gaming god syndrome. This is the ultimate ego shield. The visionary claims the game is actually incredibly difficult, but it only looks easy to observers because they personally possess supernatural skill.
The notes from the sources mention a cycle here that is very specific and very funny. If they die in the game or if their raid fails, what happens?
No, it is never their fault. Never. It is server lag or bad pathing or my teammates are trash.
Always an external locus of control.
Always. But if they succeed.
Pure divine internal talent. I am just a gaming god. I'm built different.
But notice the catch here, and the source explicitly points this out. These gods almost never write guides.
Never.
They never break down the math of their success for other players. You don't see them making how-to videos on YouTube. And why is that? If you are the absolute best in the world, wouldn't you want to teach everyone else?
Because teaching demystifies the talent. If I sit down and explain that I beat the hardest boss because I stood at coordinates X and Y and used a specific defensive cooldown at exactly 30 seconds, suddenly it's just math.
It becomes a solvable puzzle.
Exactly. Anyone can do it. By keeping it vague, they maintain the mystique. They want to be seen as a natural-born magician, not a mathematician.
It protects their status. It's a way of saying you can't do what I do because you don't have the instinct. It preserves this imaginary hierarchy where they sit right at the very top.
Precisely. And this superiority complex eventually bleeds into their professional aspirations. Or, I guess I should say, their theoretical professional aspirations. Because these folks genuinely believe their forum posts are worth a fortune.
Salary demand. I honestly thought this was satire when I first read it in the source stack.
It's hard to believe it's real.
We have a user on the forums literally saying, if Blizzard wants me to save their game, they can hire me. But I won't go under 7 digits a year.
7 digits. $1 million a year minimum to be an idea guy.
This is armchair dev economics at its absolute finest. Let's just review the resume here. Experience angry posting, skills theory crafting complaining, resume nothing actually built. Salary expectation, the entire budget of a development team.
It stems from a profound and fundamental misunderstanding of where value actually comes from in the tech industry and honestly in the economy as a whole. The visionary believes the idea is the hard part.
Right.
They think, well, I had the idea to add player housing, therefore I have done the actual work.
But in reality, ideas are so cheap. Everyone has ideas. I have an idea for a faster-than-light spaceship. That doesn't mean I can go out and build a rocket.
Ideas are totally free. Execution is what is expensive. The value isn't in a forum post saying, make a new dinosaur zone. The value is in the 1,000 professional artists and engineers who have to meticulously model the dinosaurs, rig the skeletons, texture the skin, debug the complex AI pathing, and optimize the memory usage so the dinosaur doesn't just crash the entire server region.
The visionary wants $1 million for typing the sentence, not for doing the labor.
Right. And there is a quote here from the sources that is actually kind of haunting when you think about it. One visionary wrote, "I am so good at developing my own ideas that it sometimes scares me."
It sometimes scares me. That is such a heavy, dramatic statement.
It really is.
It sounds like a supervillain origin story, but what is actually happening in their head psychologically when they say that?
It is a massive protection mechanism. It's a mix of a creative genius complex and instability. If you never actually execute your ideas, they get to remain perfect forever. In the vacuum of your own mind, your game design has absolutely no lugs.
No budget constraints.
No technical debt.
Yeah.
It is terrifyingly good because it has never once collided with reality.
It is so much easier to be a flawless genius in your bedroom than a junior designer in a cubicle getting your hard work torn apart by a lead engineer.
Exactly. Real creativity involves failure. You try something, it breaks, you fix it, breaks again. The visionary is terrified of that iterative process, so they stay safely in the realm of pure idea. And to maintain that specific delusion, they have to actively minimize the actual technical work of making games.
Which brings us to my absolute favorite fallacy in this entire stack. The coding is text theory.
Oh man, as someone who works with systems, this one physically hurts me. It's painful to read.
I know. The quote from the forum is, coding is so easy I don't even need to write a single line to know it's easy. It's just a text.
It's just a text. It is the ultimate reductionism. They look at a monitor, they see lines of C++ or Python, use the English alphabet, so they just automatically assume it is the exact same cognitive load as writing a heated forum post.
It is literally like looking at a massive suspension bridge and saying, well, it's just metal bars. I can stack metal bars, therefore I can build a bridge.
It completely ignores the architecture. It ignores memory management server, ticks latency compensation database interactions. They genuinely think coding is just opening a prompt and typing make sword do more damage.
They think the developers are just stubbornly refusing to type the magic words. Like, why haven't they fixed the bug? They just need to type fix bug.
And that logic reinforces their anger. Because if coding is that easy, then the only possible reason the game is broken is because the developers are lazy.
Right.
It can't possibly be that the issue is a deeply embedded complex race condition in the legacy code of a 20-year-old proprietary engine. No, it must be laziness.
And because they think it's so incredibly easy, they assume they're already insiders. They act like they're practically part of the dev team.
The insider claim. I know every Blizzard employee and they know me.
Just because they post on the forums.
Right. They conflate forum notoriety, basically being the loudest complainer in the room, with actual professional networking.
Like saying, well, the community manager banned me, which obviously means they know exactly who I am and respect my power.
Exactly. I am living rent-free in their heads. It is a desperate, desperate need for relevance. And they also rely heavily on what the sources call the IQ factor. You see, this claim a lot, making games is easy. You just need my IQ.
brute forcing complex software engineering with raw brain power.
Which again, completely ignores that engineering is a learned skill. It's not an innate trait. You can be a literal Mensa genius, but if you don't know the syntax of the programming language, you cannot write the program. You cannot IQ your way out of a compiler syntax error.
You really can't. So let's review. We have a person who demands a 7-digit salary, thinks coding is just typing words, and is terrified of their own untested genius. But the grand finale of this profile, the real kicker, is a population fantasy. This is the promise they sell to the community.
The billion-player prophecy.
Yes. The exact quote from the source is, "If I was working on the game, it would have 1 billion players in a week."
Let's just pause and do the math on that claim for a second. 1 billion players. That is roughly 1 out of every 8 human beings currently alive on planet Earth.
Including grandmothers, infants, people without access to electricity, and people who have never even touched a computer in their lives.
And he's going to get them all to join a subscription MMO in 7 days.
In a week. World of Warcraft, at its absolute cultural peak when it was a global phenomenon that everyone was talking about, had around 12 million subscribers.
Right. Even the biggest free-to-play games today don't have a billion concurrent players. The scale of the delusion here is just astronomical. It implies that the only thing stopping this fantasy elf game from being the single most popular human activity in all of recorded history is the current game director holding it back.
It's a full-blown messiah complex. The world is just waiting for me to take the reins.
And they truly believe it. They think their ideas are so magnetically perfect that if they just tweet the loot drop rates, grandmothers in rural villages would suddenly go out and buy a high-end gaming PC.
So naturally, after making all these massive claims, the visionary pivots to a call to action. They want to lead the people. The rant usually ends with something like, "Support me, guys. Join my growing and passionate community."
And this is where the researchers for our source material did a little bit of digging, which I love. They found the specific user who made these claims. The $1 million salary, the billion players, the scary genius quote.
They looked up his YouTube channel.
Yep, the channel was created 3 years ago. So he has had plenty of time to build this passionate movement.
17 videos uploaded. He is actively putting content out there into the world.
And the grand total subscriber count?
7.
7.
Not 7 million, not 7,000. 7 single human beings.
And let's be generous here and assume maybe 2 of those are his own alt accounts. Maybe 1 is his mom.
So the person who truly believes they can convince 1 billion people to install a complex MMO in 7 days has successfully managed to convince maybe 4 strangers to click a red subscribe button over the course of 3 years.
That is the reality check right there. That number 7 is the cold, hard data that completely pierces the bubble.
It really puts those caps lock forum rants into perspective. You see these massive walls of text on Reddit using all this industry jargon demanding that hardworking people get fired. And it feels authoritative in the moment, but behind the screen it is just a guy shouting into a totally empty room.
It is a textbook case of the Dunning-Kruger effect, but specifically applied to scale and complexity. The less someone knows about how a massive software project actually works, the simpler it looks to them. From the outside, a car just looks like a metal box with wheels. Why can't it fly? It must be because the mechanic is just stupid.
I can make it fly. It's just physics. Physics is easy.
Exactly. But once you actually open the hood and see the engine, the transmission, the electronics, you realize it is an absolute miracle. The thing even moves forward at all. These visionaries never, ever open the hood.
So to wrap this up, what is the real takeaway for you, the listener? Because we all play games and we all get frustrated when things don't go our way.
I think it's really about recognizing the difference between consumer passion and producer reality. It is completely okay to be frustrated that your favorite class got nerfed. It is okay to want the game you love to be better.
Yeah.
But we have to recognize that fixing a massive live digital ecosystem isn't about one single genius having one good idea.
It's about thousands of professionals solving millions of tiny, incredibly boring problems every single day.
Exactly. And also, maybe have a little empathy for the community managers who have to wake up and read these threads every morning.
Absolutely. So next time you see a post claiming that coding is just text and demanding $1 million salary, just remember the number 7.
7 subscribers.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a quick thought experiment. We laugh at this visionary persona, but imagine for a second that a studio actually said yes.
Oh, boy.
Imagine Blizzard just handed over the keys. They give this guy the CEO's password, the 7-figure check, and they say, okay, visionary, you have 1 week. Get us 1 billion players.
That is a genuinely terrifying image.
Right. Would they actually destroy the game in a week? Or would they sit down at the lead engineer's terminal, look at 20 million lines of C++ spaghetti code, realize that text is actually a language they do not speak, and just freeze?
Honestly, I think they would stare at the screen in pure panic for about 5 minutes and then confidently blame the monitor.
Uh-huh. You are probably right. The screen isn't 4K. I can't possibly work under these conditions. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the ego of the armchair visionary. It's been a fun one.
It really has. See you next time.